Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another Voices of Women talk. I'm super excited to introduce you here to Jody Miller-Young. My name is Sherry Cameron. I'm so thrilled to be hosting with you today. Jody Miller, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Jody. So Jody is a 30-plus year homeopathic healer. In her personal life, Jody helps pet parents learn how to naturally and holistically heal their pets so they will have gentle, powerful tools in their kit to avoid drugs when they can and help extend their lives. Jody is a certified pet homeopathic educator, and her program, 3 Key Health Pillars Every Pet Parent Should Know and Why They Lead to a Longer Life, begins its next presentation right away here in early 2022. She was a blogger, radio host, fashion editor of Hampton's Pet Magazine in the pet fashion and rescue space with her brand Bark and Swagger for several years, and still interviews designers, authors, activists on her podcast of the same name, which she reaches over 250,000 on-demand listeners. She also currently has a podcast called The Hound Healer Reports, which is the destination for pet parents wanting tips and expert interviews all about natural healing for our pets. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I'm very excited to be here on International Women's Day.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So, Jody, I would love if you would share with everyone, before we jump into some Q&A, what got you excited and passionate about this topic?
Well, I've always been an animal nut my whole life. And was that girl, bringing home the kitties that I found in the trees and hiding them in the car so my parents wouldn't know until they found out. But it actually all started with my young daughter at the time, 30 plus years ago. I was at the library, the local library with her. And you know how everything happens for a reason. I literally looked up, and on the shelf above me were 2 books, one on herbology and one on a beginner's guide to homeopathy. And I just reached for the homeopathic book, opened it, was fascinated, took it out, read it cover to cover, got my own copy, sent away for my starter kit, and never looked back. And it was the next year when Morgan was 4 and she and my mom and I were on holiday, she came down with a bad ear infection. And while, I wanted to be responsible, so I got the antibiotic and I put it in the fridge just in case, I utilized what I had learned and consulted a homeopathic physician at the time, because this was a long time ago, and gave her a remedy. And by the next morning, her fever had broken. By the next afternoon, she was her normal 4-year-old self, and we never had to use antibiotics. And she never got another ear infection again. Her cousins, who were like on the cycle of ear infection antibiotics, they kept getting those ear infections over and over again. So that really said something to me. And that just sunk that message in for me. And I was sold.
I love this topic. I'm going to tell you, I have never really even thought about that much for my pets. And I'm probably going to bet that there's a lot of people out there that sort of think the same way.
Yeah.
I think as people, we tend to, not always, we're becoming more aware, but tend to, something's wrong, run to the doctor, get the medication. Never really thought about this from a pet perspective.
Yeah.
So do you think that, I would just love to hear more, like, is there sort of alternatives for all kinds of things, or is there just, certain alternatives for certain things? Like, and the reason I'm asking that is I have a dog who all of a sudden started having epileptic seizures, and really, really often. So I had to put him on medication. So I'd just love to hear, like, what do you see as these, alternatives to drugs, and in what scenario, are they appropriate, and maybe what scenario are they not?
Yeah. We have so much available to us today that It just takes a little bit of research to see what's available. And then I always recommend, aligning with an expert so that you know what you're doing. My favorite, because of the story I told you and everything I've learned since, is homeopathy. It is a real form of medicine created by a doctor, a physician, scientist almost 300 years ago. And it's very elegant. And when you talk about your dog with epilepsy, homeopathy for 250 plus years has been curing everything from skin conditions to cancer, dare I say. But it's true. It is an energy medicine. And it is a very powerful tool to have in our toolkit for our pets and for ourselves. The premise is the same for both. Mm-hmm. So when you learn about homeopathy enough to prescribe maybe for acute things at first, you learn how to match the symptoms that your pet is exhibiting with the symptoms that a homeopathic remedy would create in a healthy person. And if you match them closely enough, the homeopathic remedy literally makes the symptoms in your pet's body disappear one by one. It's fascinating. It sounds like a lot of woo-woo, but it is tried and true and proven for many, many years. And there are many homeopathic vets who practice today as well.
Yeah. And it feels to me, as you're saying, both with likely pets and with people, I mean, there's this sort of level of, I think there's always a place for, traditional medicine, but, there's seems to be a lot of more mistrust of, some of these options now that used to be just second nature. That's what we do. But I love, like you're saying, there's a huge history here. Where does someone start? So if you're looking to say, I'd love to start exploring this, what advice would you offer?
Well, first, I want to just add to something that you said. There absolutely is a time and a place for your vet. Western medicine, there's nothing better than Western medicine for diagnostics, for surgery, for emergency care. But as you said, we so often run to the vet for everything and don't know enough to really empower ourselves as pet parents to make choices as opposed to just taking the medication and giving the medication, because oftentimes that medication has more fallout than good. Mm-hmm. Where do you start? You could do some research online. I'm a pet wellness coach and I teach pet parents this sort of thing. So if pet parents are interested in that, they can find me through the Hound Healer. And but it's fine. It's doing some research first and being open. I find that in learning anything new, you have to be open to allowing new information to come through, because when you're open, you allow wonderful things to happen and opportunities to come in and information that does come in to really sink in with you. So that's very important. And then getting with somebody who knows more than you, who can teach you, because homeopathy is a form of medicine. It's do no harm medicine. So you can't really hurt your animal if you pick the wrong remedy with homeopathy, which is a big relief to pet parents. But it is a learned skill. And then there are other parts of my 3 key health pillars that I teach pet parents. Nutrition is the foundation of the house. It is super important for us and our pets. And I teach pet parents what is best for your pets and what to shy away from and how to tweak the good things to really be the best for your individual animal, because like us, each of our pets is an individual too.
And I love that you're saying that too, because it's really looking at that, not sort of coming up with a solution when something goes wrong, but starting with that optimal health and how can you do that, up front. So with that,
Exactly.
I'd love for you to share, what are some of your tips to sort of keep your pet healthy right off the hop?
Absolutely. So pillar one, as I said, is nutrition. Good nutrition is the foundation of the house. And while it's very convenient, and still many pet parents feed dry food, feed kibble, some paying more for kibble, designer kibble, as I'll call it. Dry food is dry food. And the process that it takes to make it into dry food kills any nutrients that are in the food.
Thank you for saying that. That is so
Everything.
good. Yeah.
So whatever nutrients are added, they're added synthetically and after the fact, and it ain't the same thing. In addition, part of what I teach pet parents is what goes on in these processing plants that make pet food, which is a very unregulated industry. It's looked at as feed, not food.
Is that right? Okay.
So dry food, it's not only dry, but dry
Looked
food
at as
tends
feed,
to
not
be
food.
the main, yes, tends to be the main, culprit in terms of what gets a lot of nasty stuff put in it that we don't necessarily see. So I would steer away from dry food, even steer away from wet food, which is only one step above dry food on the vitality food pyramid. And I would do the best I possibly could to steer toward raw. Now, not every pet parent wants to handle raw meat, and I understand that. And there are options. Yes, frozen and fresh raw is the best because it contains live enzymes, and those live enzymes are really important to the digestive system of your pet.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you, I am so surprised by this. I feel like it's been the sort of same thing we've been told about human diet,
It
it's like the
is.
meat is bad, this kind of thing, but you're saying that's not the case.
Well, it's different for animals.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't feed my dogs meat alone. Animals
Right.
need a nutritional panel just like humans. And when you're feeding raw, there are complete raw meals that you can buy that have all of the AFCO, which is the organization for the pet industry that designates the nutritional panel for dogs and cats. That have all of the AFCO, nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And if you decide to home cook, which is another good option, you can go on the AFCO website and you can find out what you need to put in there. And that could be added through different vegetables and different fruits, which all contain their own vitamins and minerals. But yes, meat, I think, is important for dogs and critical for cats because cats are true carnivores, whereas dogs are omnivores. They can eat both. So nutrition is the pillar. So I would move toward raw, but if you don't want to deal with fresh or frozen raw, then you have things like freeze-dried raw. Not dehydrated raw, which is not as nutritious because it goes through a heat process. But freeze-dried raw maintains 97% of the nutrients. So that's good. And it's super easy. You don't have to refrigerate it. All you do is add water. And there are some really good brands. So it will also be an easy way to be doing good for your dog or cat. So that's pillar number one.
Amazing.
Pillar
Such great
number,
info.
thank you. I'm glad. Pillar number two is to learn some form of holistic, complementary, natural way to heal. So homeopathy is one, but there are many. There's herbology. There's other energy medicines and energy body work and healing. There are lots of things that we can learn and have access to today to have in our toolkits to empower us and benefit our pets, to heal the whole being, which is really the objective. When we get a tummy ache, okay, or our pets have a stomach ache, it's not just the stomach that's affected. It's not as if your whole body doesn't know what's going on in your stomach. It's an imbalance in your system, and your entire body knows what's going on, and it's being expressed through that stomach ache. So you need to balance the whole thing, right? To be able to resolve the stomach ache. And it's the same for our pets, whatever the symptoms are. So learn some sort of complementary form of medicine so that you have these powerful tools in your kit to help your animal, and also for you to feel empowered and like you don't have to just be at the mercy of your vet. Vets are important, but I don't want to be at the mercy of my vet, right? I want to know what to do too. The third pillar is something that I call the happiness protocol. And it sounds, a little bit crazy, like what's the happiness protocol? But it really is very straightforward. When we're happy doing something we love, and when our pets are happy doing something that they love, it boosts the immune system. It strengthens the immune system. And there are certain things, like I know sometimes I walk, one of my dogs is a hound, and she has got to sniff everything, like for a long time.
Yeah, mine too.
Right?
I call him the sniffer, like he's just so
right.
sniff. Yeah.
Sometimes it drives us crazy. Yeah. But when dogs are sniffing, not only are they getting comfortable with the environment and learning a lot of information, but their anatomy up in their nose actually has a specific olfactory part that humans don't have, designed specifically for this purpose. They need to do this. And it's something that most dogs really love to do. So I now try not to pull my dog along when she's sniffing and give her a chance. But whatever it happens to be, whether it's certain games or time with you or going to the dog park, whatever it is that your animal loves, dog, cat, whatever, to do more of it and spend more time focusing on that for them, because it really helps them a lot.
That
and those
seems
are sort
like
of
so
three key, like basics of the takeaway.
Okay, I've got some great questions for you here.
Yeah.
Christina Chambro says that you know her. She's a homeopathic vet.
Yes.
She's got some great questions here. I would love to have you answer. How about feeding hunted meat like deer, elk, pheasant?
Well, I actually do that. And it's a really great question, Christina, because there are a couple of sides to this. One, the hunted meat that I feed my animals comes from, I live in Texas now, and I'm very fortunate for that, because there are ranches and companies that feed organically, no pesticides, no herbicides. And that's something that I would strongly recommend to pet parents. They humanely slaughter. And that also is important because of what goes on in factory farmed animals, the cortisol, increase and spikes throughout their whole lives. And then, of course, right before slaughter, which goes into your animal, it stays in that meat. But I also get my hunted meat from a humanely slaughtered brand.
Love it.
And that's one part of it. The other part of it, and Christina, please, come back if this doesn't fully answer what you're looking for, is we live in such a toxic environment today, unfortunately, that the oxidative stress in our bodies and in our pets' bodies is at such an elevated level that our bodies were not designed to neutralize as much incoming as there is. So there often is an imbalance in our and our pets' bodies. Mm-hmm. And so how this takes me back around to the meat is whether it's hunted meat, which it affects hunted meat, it affects meat that is on a ranch or a farm. It doesn't matter, because even if you're getting meat from a ranch that doesn't use herbicide or pesticide, when it rains, there's toxicity in that rain. The nearby stream leaches toxicity, toxic chemicals into the soil. So it's going to be everywhere, even in wild animals. And so my recommendation is to try and balance feeding meat with fasting 1 to 2 days a week, not consecutive days, to help the body rid itself of toxins, repair. And when you don't feed for 18 to 24 hours, the body actually kills off unhealthy cells. So it gives the body the opportunity to do that. And that's both for humans and animals. But also to supplement with, your vegetables, little less of a toxicity issue, because those animals that eat the grass with the pesticides, every time they eat all day long, day in, day out, the toxic chemicals are residing in their muscle meat. And so there's a buildup over time. So I hope that answered your question, Christina, but if not, please, get more clear with me.
Such a wealth of information. And I know she was asking about vaccines. We're running out of time. If you have just a couple of words to say on that,
I would love to say something about that and bless you, Christina, because this is such a key thing for pet parents. Conventional vets pressure us as pet parents to get our pets vaccinated either yearly or every 3 years. And the truth of the matter is, and Christina Chambreau is a holistic veterinarian, and she actually participates in my course, and she teaches my students more about this very issue. When you get that distemper, parvo, multiple shot as a puppy, you give your puppy that shot, that oftentimes lasts a lifetime. Those antibodies last a lifetime. So you do not need to get revaccinated, which causes problems.
There's a tip of the day.
And rabies, we're pressured by the law, in our states. But unless you have to travel with your pet, or there's an absolute reason for you to vaccinate for rabies vaccinations can last 7 years or more, sometimes a lifetime. There's something called titer tests, and you can Google that, TITER, and find out how you can get a titer test. Most veterinarians do it to see what the level of antibodies is in your animal and whether or not they actually need that vaccine.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for tucking that in at the end. I see that you have a gift here to share. Do you want to just tell us quickly about your gift?
Yes, it actually is a fun quiz that basically helps you identify the kind of pet parent you are and what obstacles you may have towards finding natural ways to solve your problems with your pet as a pet parent. So I urge everybody to take it. It's really quick.
Awesome.
And then you'll have an opportunity to go into my webinar and hear more about my philosophy of healing.
Perfect. What a wonderful, wonderful wealth of knowledge you've been. Thank you so much, Jody.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, up next in 5 minutes, we've got Andrea Simon coming on to discuss with us Rethink: Smashing Myths of Women in Business. So join us again right on this track. Jody, before you go, any last tip you'd like to give to our listeners?
Well, the 3 key takeaways. Nutrition is the foundation of the house. Move on to raw feeding or as close to it as you can get. Number 2, learn some natural modality of healing. Empower yourself. I love homeopathy, but there are so many, and you don't have to pick one. And the third one is the happiness protocol. Employ more of what your pet loves to strengthen their immune system and make them happier.
Wonderful. I learned so much from you myself in just
so
this
glad.
25 minutes. Thank you for your time, and join us next in 5 minutes. Thank you so much, Jody.
Thank you.